think anyone and everyone likes to people watch. I don't know why, but I have this idea in my head that whenever you go out, whenever you're walking, going to the store, at a cafe, people just like kind of observing the world around them. And today's story kind of has that voyeurism at the focus of it. 2 years ago, I was living in a city called Kimitsu, which is located in Chiba Prefecture in Japan. And although Chiba has many large cities in it, Kimitsu is not one of them. Kimitsu is kind of this small little pachinko town with a lot of industrialization and just a lot of factories and machinery, but there's not a whole lot to do in terms of people watching or sights and sounds. There's not a lot of restaurants. But if you hop the train one stop north, there's a larger town called Kisarazu, and I would go there maybe once a month to visit friends, take in the sights and sounds of a bigger city, certainly of a more urban setting. But I found that every time I went there, regardless of where I went, whether it was a bar or a park or a store, I kept seeing the same woman walking around. And I've just got to throw this out there. Japan is not the most diverse country on the planet. I mean, everyone there more or less looks the same. The skin tones are very uniform. The hair colors are very uniform. The eye color is very uniform. The height is very uniform. Everybody is very similar. It's not a very outwardly expressive society in terms of those features. And it's just kind of a wave of brown. You just see brown hair and brown eyes and that just everywhere. And it's not a bad thing. It depends on the person. But when I would go to Kisarazu, I would see this woman with bleached white hair. And I say this because it stuck out like a sore thumb. I mean, this woman looked nothing like the rest of the population. I mean, she's a Japanese woman, but her hair was just absolutely pure white. I mean, it was the whitest bleach hair I'd ever seen in my life. Maybe she was mid-20s or late 20s, maybe approaching 30. She had a petite figure, and she always wore leather. She always kind of wore this badass leather attire, and just had this long, kind of curly, bleached white hair. And I would see her around, constantly. I would see her just in the most innocuous places. And I was always curious about her. I was always kind of wondering, what's your story? Fate had me bump into her 10 times, and I just never managed up the courage to just kind of approach her and say, what's your story? What's your deal? I remember one night I was with a buddy, and we were at a bar, and we were in Kisarazu, and it was probably approaching 11 o'clock, 11:30, when the woman with white hair walked in. And immediately I thought, oh my gosh, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. I can approach this woman and find out, what the deal is. But I never really had that opportunity, because what she did at the bar was a little more hectic. She walked in, and the entire bar roused with applause and screaming and cheering. And then it became very clear to me that she was a musician. She got up on the stage, and this really small venue, this really kind of backlit, seedy underbelly of this kind of, mom and pop pub. And she got on the stage, picked up a guitar, and just started singing and rocking out. I mean, she had a band with her, and she was just going crazy. I was just totally blown away by I mean, I guess I should have suspected it, right? Her image was a rocker, and certainly she had the the credentials. She looked the part, but I was just blown away. And her performance was crazy and lots of energy and really interesting. And I went up to her after the fact, and I tried to introduce myself as best as I could with my minimal Japanese. And she handed me a card of hers. This is a very common thing in Japan. People have business cards for everything, and she had one for her bandmate. And the name of the band that was written on the card was the word noodles with 10 O's or something, or 8 O's or something. I'll tell you what, I'll put a link in the description to their Facebook page, but you can go listen to their music and you can kind of go see this. this kind of interesting band and their interesting, style, kind of a jam band rock kind of punk scene. But man, I was really kind of happy to have closure to a story of who was this person I kept seeing around, just popping up in my purview. Later on, I would take the image of her, not her explicit image, but I would take the idea of her, the idea of this hair, and I would recycle the character in one of my D&D campaigns, one of my kind of fantasy role-playing games with some buddies. But, I never really learned her real name, so in the campaign, I just always referred to her as the woman with white hair.